You're listening to the IFF TV podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Irish Abroad Show. It's myself, Paul Tierney, and today I'm joined by Paul Nealon as Ger is off doing, it's the cycle against suicide, I think, isn't it? Yeah, so fair play to him on that one. Paul, how are things with you?
All good. Yeah, and yourself, Paul?
All good, yeah, all good. Another action-packed few days in the Premier League and then the League Cup obviously on this week as well, so plenty to get through. We'll kick off with the Premier League anyway. There wasn't much action, but there's a couple of things to speak about. Anyway, we start off with the main one. Shane Duffy won a penalty plus claimed an assist by winning that penalty in Brighton's 2-1 win over Leicester. And Brighton's fine form continues and Shane Duffy's fine form continues, Paul.
Yeah, it's great to see. You know, I think Everton had bet them, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's their only defeat of the season. I could be wrong on that, but I think it was anyway. So they've been brilliant so far this season. I remember last season, obviously he was at Celtic and stuff, but they were coming close in games and not winning the games. And maybe I think that kind of comes down to one, not putting the ball in the net, and maybe they were conceding goals a bit easily. And obviously, if you're someone like Shane Duffy, who we know from being Irish and what he brings to the Irish side when he's full of confidence and just back to himself, is that, you know, he is solid and he throws his body in the line in front of everything and he gets his way. And now he seems to be doing things in the opposition's box and affecting games and helping his team obviously get goals and stuff like that. We know how much of a nuisance he is in both boxes anyway, because, you know, he's brilliant at clearing the ball and he's also brilliant at coming on and attacking the ball, as we know from Ireland, like scoring goals for us. A lot of the time, he's our biggest threat in the box. You know, every time we get a set piece, we think, oh, Shane Duffy. You know, so Brighton fans obviously feel the same. They have Dunk as well there. They have a brilliant partnership. And yeah, it's great to see. Like, I'd like to see him doing well rub off on, say, some of the other younger lads at Brighton coming through. And I know we'll speak about Connolly later on in the show for the Carabao Cup stuff. But it's good. It's a great example to all young players, I think, what Shane Duffy's gone through to come out the other side and now be playing Premier League and playing it well and probably being Brighton's best player so far this season. I mean, if you were to end the season right now, he'd be their player of the season, you know, and I know it's only September and I'm not getting carried away, but it's just great to see from where he was last year to where he is now. And, you know, as an Irish fan and an Irish person, I like Brighton as a club and they seem to give a lot of the Irish youngsters a chance, as we know, Malumbi and Connolly and Duffy, and I'm sure there's other players coming through now, and Evan Ferguson, Andrew Moore and James Furlong and Matty Everett. So there's a big Irish contingent there, and I'm sure I'm missing a few as well. So you look, it's great to see, and it's great to see Shane doing well as well.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully it continues as well. I think I'm not sure who they've got this weekend, but look, all the games are tough in the Premier League, so hopefully they can keep going with it.
Well, I think they're just taking it one game at a time, Paul, you know, because you know, last season I think they were coming close in games, as I said, but they just probably couldn't get that goal, and then they were getting turned over by the odd goal, and then they were down near the relegation zone. They're doing well so far. I'm sure they'll just take it game by game and see how it goes. And I'm sure Shane Duffy's doing the same, because, you know, he knows how quickly now it can turn, having seen what happened last season, you know.
Yeah, definitely. We move on. Kieran Clark played the full 90 minutes in Newcastle's 1-1 draw with Leeds as well. Another disappointing result for both sides there, really. Probably both of them were looking to get a win from that, but look, both of them are kind of static at the minute where they are. And then the only other bit I have here is Adam Ida got 2 minutes for Norwich plus added time in their 3-1 defeat to Watford. Looking at that, I thought he probably would have got on earlier, considering they were chasing that game for most of it.
Yeah, it's a tough one with Adam, because we all want to see him do well. We think we have a real good player on our hands there in Adam. It's just the fact that he doesn't get any real Premier League minutes with Norwich. Sorry, my headphones are all tangled there. Yeah, just with Norwich, he doesn't seem to get much of a look in at all. And I know, look, Timo Pukki's a very good player and stuff like that, but he's not getting any younger. They have that other lad who missed the penalty the other night against Liverpool, Tzlozzi or something.
Yeah.
Look, I can't pronounce his name properly. I'm sure if I offend anyone, I'm sorry. But he played for Pauk actually against Bowes. I didn't think he was that good, to be honest with you. I still think maybe it's an Irish bias thing, I don't know, but I still think Adam should be getting more minutes, and especially like Andrew Bamidele made his debut against Arsenal the week previous. So he is willing to give you the chance. Maybe it's obviously up the other end of the pitch because it's such a important position, scoring goals and stuff like that. Maybe I don't know whether he's trying to take pressure off him, but I think if you're going to bring in another striker, why not just send Adam on loan? I think he would benefit so much more from a season in the Championship or a season abroad, and banging in goals for teams in abroad or in the Championship or something like that. I think would be excellent for him. I think he would do really, really well. I think he'd get about 20 goals a season if that was the case, barring injuries and stuff. But it just seems as though Daniel Farke's just not willing to take that much of a chance in the Premier League. He did score the goal that actually got Norwich up in the end last season. I think he scored the winning goal to seal promotion and stuff like that. So he's no stranger to scoring goals for Norwich. It's probably he just hasn't given them much of a chance in the Premier League. He's given them bit parts here and there, but he's shown when he's been given opportunities against, say, Championship sides and so on, that he can score goals. I know he scored a hat-trick against Preston in the Cup. Someone said that was Preston's B team, but you can only beat or score against what's in front of you. So for me, I'd like to see Adam get more minutes. I'd like to see, because he's starting for Ireland. I mean, a fella who can't get into the Norwich team is starting for Ireland. He's 19 or 20, and we're pinning all our hopes on him to be our goal scorer, but he can't break into the Norwich team, and that's not having a go with him. It's just we want to see him obviously get minutes with Norwich, but you can't justify him then starting for Ireland if you can't get into the Norwich team, who, as you said, lost to Watford, and Watford wouldn't exactly be high-end Premier League quality, so It is a worry that he's not getting minutes, and I know Gary's said this before. I imagine you have said it as well. He needs minutes, and he's a young lad. He's developing, and he needs minutes now. If you want him to be a top-class player, he needs minutes, and he needs time on the pitch now to develop, because throwing him in against the likes of Portugal, now which he's done really, really well, it's hard for him then to come back and not get in the Norwich team. Imagine how annoying that would be. You're the main man for your country, but you're not the main man for your club at that age. So and Clark as well. Look, I think Clark's time with Ireland is done. I think we're blessed in terms of our centre backs. We know we're a pretty sound bunch of centre backs there in terms of we can rely on most of them. It looks like Bamidele has overtaken him in the pecking order. He kind of suits more of what Stephen Kenny's looking for. Then you have Darragh O'Shea. Well, maybe because he's injured, Clark might get a look in. But from watching Clark in the games last year and the way we set up and stuff like that, it seemed as though almost he's an old-fashioned centre-back. We watched Shane Duffy in the last year. He's developed his game to become maybe a bit more of a modern centre-back, whereas I don't think Clark has. I think Clark's just that bit more on in his age, that I think, look, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and I'm not saying he's 40 years of age or anything like that, but his main job as a centre back for Newcastle is to just absorb pressure, break it down and break up play, and just give it off, and that's what he's been good at. But I still don't think he should be getting in the squad or anywhere near the starting 11 for Ireland. And look, there's a reason why he's playing with Newcastle. I think the same with Hendrick at the moment too.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned Hendrick, no game time for him again this week. Yeah, very quiet in the Premier League this week.
Big Andy didn't play either, did he?
No, he didn't. No.
Yeah.
None. I had him in the
Liverpool the other night though.
Yeah, I had him in the fantasy team. I thought he would have played. It would make sense to play him. He's playing away to Arsenal. Why not play him at home to Watford in what's probably considered a bigger game? But I don't know how Daniel Farke thinks.
He said that the reason he started at Big Andy was because Aubameyang's pace. So that was the reason why he matched him up against him. You're obviously an Arsenal fan. I think you spoke about it on last week's show. But did you watch the game and how did he do?
He's done all right. I mean, I think he's playing against an Arsenal side who are lacking a lot of things. I think Aubameyang, okay, he's quick, but he hasn't done anything in about 2 years, really. I know he scored the winner that day, but look, a 1-0 win at home to Norwich isn't fantastic. I know they just needed a win at the time, but you look at where Norwich are now, they look like they're just going to go straight down with no wins. Obviously, it's still early, but it's look, I don't know. I think if you play him against Aubameyang and he only concedes 1 goal, and then you don't play him against Watford and they concede 3 goals, he's obviously helped them a lot more than the other lads did in the Watford game. So I don't know how Fark thinks, to be honest. And even with the Ida situation as well, I know they were booed off the other day after losing to Watford, so he's gonna have to change something this week away to yourselves. Bit mad to be honest. They look like they're going straight back down anyway. Unfortunately,
it's a big game for Everton this week, though, too, Paul, because results, the last 2 games, 2 defeats, and if something happened there, I think you heard about the Ryan Brennan's head on a plate. I think it'd be Rafa Benitez's head on a plate next week if things don't go to the plan against Norwich. Obviously, James Coleman, he's out injured, I think, for 2 or 3 weeks. So that was a bit of a surprise for me as well, because I wasn't expecting that. He seems to be just picking up knocks every time he goes on international duty. I know he came back and played a game, but it just seems to be that carry-on effect from the international break. And part of me kind of wonders, is he better off just retiring from international football? Massive loss for Ireland if that is the case, but for the longevity of his own career, that's what I'd just be wondering. Look, if he continues to play for Ireland, I'll still be happy either way, but I just more so thinking of him,
Yeah, definitely, you're right. And especially the way they play 3 games now instead of 2, it's very rushed for him. And sure, most players wouldn't be able to play 3 games in that long, short period of time. So, look, you have a point there anyway.
If you're playing 3 games, and he plays the first one, the last one, that would make more sense. This is a break in between. But yeah, as you say, instead of 2 in quick succession, and then he missed the 3rd against Serbia, I think. So yeah, look, he'll be back in a couple of weeks, and Everton really missed him this week against who was it we even played? It was Villa, 3-0, and it was embarrassing. Once the first goal went in, it was embarrassing, and you could see we were lacking any sort of leadership there. So have Coleman back, and I think that shows what he brings to the team. Ben Godfrey is obviously a super player, but he struggled with Leon Bailey, and Seamus Coleman, for some reason, he doesn't tend to get roasted or anything like that often. Like he knows when he's coming up against a tricky, fast-paced winger. He always seems to nullify them. And you ever watch him against Zaha? He usually has a brilliant game against Zaha, Mane as well, Rashford. He always has brilliant games against these players when he knows that he has to kind of defend. So I think we really missed him there. Like, Ben Godfrey's great and pace-wise and stuff like that, but he got torn to shreds by Villa. So it shows how much Everton lack leadership when Coleman's not on the team.
Yeah. And just as I said, it was a short week in the Premier League Irish-wise this week due to injuries, suspensions and stuff like that as well. We can move on into the Championship now. We start off with the early game from Saturday. 2 goals for John Egan and 2 assists for Conor Hourihane in Sheffield United's 3-1 win at Hull City. It was obviously on Sky as well. I know a couple of lads watched that, and good stuff from the 2 Irish lads there.
Yeah, 100%. And if they can, mirror that for Ireland, it would be great as well. I love John Egan. Like, he's just a great lad in every sense. He's just brilliant. Nice fella. Good footballer, hard working. You'll get everything from him. He'll put blood, sweat and tears into every single performance. He's absolutely excellent. Conor Hourihane, I think that's, like, without sounding bad, but I think that's his level. I think the Championship, he's a very, very good player in the Championship. I think in the Premier League, he's an average player and doesn't really stand out. Look, and that's not necessarily a knock on him, because there's so many quality players in the Premier League. I mean, you look, that's where all the good players are going these days, and that's where the money is, as you saw with players like Lukaku and Ronaldo coming back to the Premier League. Because the money's there, the power is there in terms of the Premier League. And I think Howey probably struggled because they brought in Ross Barkley and stuff like that last season, and he struggled to get going, and then he went to Swansea and then he got going. He was played as like an attacking midfielder, but I think with his left foot and a chance to actually work with players like, John Egan, who's an absolute warrior in the box. We spoke about Shane Duffy being a nuisance in their box. He scored the goal against Portugal as well, so that's probably 3 goals in about the space of 4 games or something like that for John Egan, for club and country or something like that. Anyway, so to have someone like him who's in that type of form, I think that's going to be crucial for Sheffield United, because they've been a bit wayward at the start of the season. You know, they've not looked like the side that they were. Obviously, the season they came up in the Premier League, they were absolutely excellent. And yeah, last season they struggled after the lockdown. They kind of struggled, and then they just struggled again last season to get going any sort of momentum, and I think that showed in terms of their results overall. So to see players like, you know, Egan back on form, back doing well, scored against Portugal as I mentioned. He scored 2 now at the weekend to help them win, and Howey getting assists. Now I'd like to see him add some more goals to his game. You're probably going to come on to it later on, but I think Ed Stevens scored a goal last night as well, so it'd be excellent to get him back now, run of games and get him back, because I think it's quite obvious we're missing that kind of balance on the left hand side there for Ireland. But again, he's 31 now as well, so he's not getting any younger either. When saying that, McLean's came in and done well, and he's a bit older than him. But I just think we need to be not about we're blooding in other players at the moment. I think we need to start looking at that as well, like someone as a longer term replacement for Enda Stevens, because he's not always going to be around as reliable as he's been for the few years that we've had him. He probably came into the team too late, if you ask me. I think he was 27 or 28 before he came in regularly and doing well, you know. Yeah,
definitely. Good to see Sheffield United actually starting to get going again. You mentioned their poor form, but they've got 2 wins from 2 now, and that's what they need to be doing. And they've scored 9 goals in 2 games, which is good to see too. And a lot of the Irish lads involved, you know,
as well. You know, Paul, they've got good quality in the team too. So I think we'd ideally like to see them, you know, pushing for the top spot in the championship or playoff spot, you know, because obviously benefits Ireland if that is the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Couple of other things to talk about in the championship anyway. Mark Travers got another clean sheet in their 1-0 win away to Cardiff. James Collins was on as a sub for Cardiff in that game as well. Good to hear again, Jason Knight is on as a sub for Derby against Stoke. Bad news about Derby this week, they went into administration and got the points deduction, but they did have I think they had 10 points already, so they're only on -2 now, which isn't the worst really, considering the start that some of the other teams have made. So they're not adrift anyway, which is good, and I'm sure they'll keep fighting away. And Jason's back fit as well, so they're a stronger side when he is in the team. Richard Keogh played in Blackpool's 2-1 win away at Middlesbrough. And then obviously the big Irish contingent at Peterborough, Jack Taylor, Conor Coventry and Sam Schmodix all played in a 3-0 win over Birmingham City in that one as well. It's a good win for Peterborough, considering they're probably everyone's tip to go straight back down as well.
Yeah, you know, Scott Hogan as well has been banging them in for Birmingham too, so to keep him quiet and get a clean sheet was pretty impressive for Peterborough. And it's great to see these young lads getting an opportunity in the championship where, you know, as I mentioned, Conor Howey, he never really got to that next level, whereas you think, probably because he got there so late. And that's not it's not a knock on him, but I think you look at someone like Conor Coventry, who I think could play Premier League if he's given time to develop, say in the championship, and maybe go up with a team and stuff. I hope I'm wrong, but I just don't see him getting in the team at West Ham. Maybe he has a good season now, goes back and does well, who knows. But from what I've seen, I think Moyes likes him, but I don't think he can trust him in midfield, because it's such a, you know, it's such an area that you need to be able to trust your midfielders, because most games are won and lost in midfield. And as brilliant as he's been for the Irish underage and stuff like that, I think he needs to start kicking on for his own sake, because he's looking at other players who've kind of gone in and done all right. You know, Malumbi and stuff like that, who've kind of gone ahead of him in the pecking order, because they've gone out and got game time. Like you think of the Millwall move that Malumbi got, that really put him out there. So I hope that for Coventry's sake, that this Peterborough move can do that. Just back to you said about Mark Travers. Look, it's great to see him coming into some form. I think all he really needed was a chance and some time to come into the team and develop, because he obviously had the really good game against Spurs a few seasons ago on his debut. He came in done well. They won that game, and I think he just needed games, and everybody will go back and look at that Serbia game, in which, in fairness, he didn't do a whole lot wrong. He just came out, realised the ball wasn't going to make it that far, and backpedaled onto his line and got dinked. It was a great finish. I think you're being extremely harsh if you're going to blame him on the defeat, because he didn't do much wrong other than that. Look, his kicking wasn't amazing, but you know, it was his debut against arguably the favourites for the group with Portugal. So, you know, I think people need to start getting behind him. Again, it's nice to see another keeper of ours doing well. And we've got 3 good goalkeepers going forward. And I think him just playing this season and doing well will only benefit for himself. And I think then he can start maybe pushing on and get that bit more confidence. Because he did look like he was lacking a bit of confidence in that game against Serbia. But, I mean, none of our goalkeepers were playing at the time. So you can understand it. I think Darren Randolph would have probably handled the occasion better. But it's easy for us to sit here and say that, you know, away to Serbia. I don't think there was any fans of that game. But still, away to Serbia in that kind of game I imagine it's not easy, you know.
No.
And then, yeah, just on what you said about Derby, look, I think Knight will be gone in January. I think that financially they'll need to cash in on him. Excuse me. Clubs will be looking at him and going, all right, we can get him on the cheap. We'll come in and get him. I actually think Derby will, you know, a lot of their players will be gone. I think Rooney will be gone. And I think that they'll just kind of get like a kind of steady the ship manager in just to kind of get them out to the end of the season and see where they go. But the likelihood is that they'll be scrapping down there like they were last year. But I mean, if they have started the season well, so that Rooney's brought in players like Jagielka and stuff to give them that kind of leadership and stuff like that. I was listening to him on on Tony Bellew's podcast, and he was talking about, you know, Jason Knight and stuff like that, and there's a great bunch of lads there. They've mixed it in with the likes of Jagielka and these types of players. So yeah, look, I think Derby will ultimately struggle, but I think Knight Premier League move or top end Championship move would be good for him now. That he's at that next stage of his development, and I think for him, he scored goals for Ireland, he set up goals for Ireland, and he's looked well when he's been brought in there. So it'd be great to see him now kick on to that next level if he can, and you know, maybe make that next jump to the Premier League if he can. I just hope it's the right move for him wherever he goes. Yeah,
definitely, you're right there. Yeah, bad situation at Derby, obviously, and you've made a good point there about him potentially moving as well. That's it from the Championship, really. We go into League One now. Start off with Aidan McGeady. He scored in a 2-2 draw for Sunderland against Fleetwood. Sunderland have started the season very well. Also done well in the League Cup this week too. Big Irish contingent at MK Dons. Peter Kioso got a goal in their 4-1 win against Gillingham, with Troy Parrott and Warren O'Hara also playing there too. They've actually started quite well there, MK Dons. Ronan Curtis scored a consolation for Portsmouth in their defeat to Cambridge. Gavin Bazunu, Sean Williams and Marcus Harness all also played there. Portsmouth in a bit of bad form at the minute, but Gavin Bazunu is still putting in performances even though he is conceding goals.
Yeah, but sometimes when, you know, if you don't have a good defensive front of you can only keep out so many, you know. Look, I'm not worried about Gavin, whether he kind of comes and goes in form. I still think he's going to be an absolutely excellent goalkeeper. I think you can tell by the way everybody speaks about him, the way he speaks himself. He's just a good lad, and I think he's got a great mentality. I don't think he's anything to be worried about. I think, look, Portsmouth will be thereabouts come the end of the season. I think he'll play a large part in that if he's fit. I think he's a magnificent goalkeeper, and yeah, as you mentioned, like, they're in a bad patch of form, but I don't think he is. I think he's actually in a bit of a purple patch. Players like Curtis and Sean Williams, I think, has actually been a great asset for them and a great player to get in to try and get them up to that next level. Harness, for me, he's not shown that he can make that jump to the next level. Look, as I mentioned, like, Sean Williams was a solid Championship player for years at Millwall, loved by the fans there, and actually was, you know, the fans actually gave a lovely tribute to him when he left and stuff like that because he was there for so long. So yeah, I think, look, they've got a good. I think Curtis should have made a jump to the Championship or higher a long time ago. He seems just happy and comfortable there at Portsmouth. So, you know, if he is happy and comfortable, fair play to him. But I think if he wants or has aspirations to be a starter for Ireland going forward, I think he needs to be playing on the regular, at a higher level. And I know he scores goals and he's a goal threat and stuff like that, but I still think he needs to go to that next level. He's still quite young. I think he's only 23 or 24. So he has time on his side, but I think now for him it's time to move on from Portsmouth and get that move up to wherever it may be.
Yeah, definitely a good point there. Maybe he just wants to get promoted with them, considering they've been beaten in the playoffs a couple of times. And
I think
but
he's
look,
3 or 4 years doing that now, Paul.
yeah. Like they've always been thereabouts. They kind of fall away towards the end of the season, go into the playoffs, and then lose to the likes of Oxford, the likes of someone like that. So look, they'll keep pushing on anyway, and hopefully they can get form back down for the Irish lads as well. Only a couple of things in League Two this week. Aaron Drinnan scored again for Leyton Orient. He scored last week too, obviously, in their 3-1 win over Bristol Rovers. And Will Ferry got an assist for Crawley in their 1-0 win at Colchester. Alan Judge also played for Colchester in that one as well. But Will Ferry has been playing well the last couple of weeks. Jer mentioned him last week too, so it's good to see.
Yeah, he seems like he's a good player. Obviously an Irish under-21 player. Yeah, look, just long may it continue. Just one of these players to have good seasons, and hopefully then we can start developing them into our own squad of Irish players, and maybe he can go back to Southampton at the end of the season or next season and try and force his way into the team, kind of like Will Smallbone did.
Move on into Scotland now. Anyway, I've only got one piece from Scotland here, and it's the usual stuff from St Mirren. Joe Shaughnessy scored a late equaliser against Hibs. Also, the 4 other lads played as well. Jamie McGrath, Alan Power, Conor Ronan and Conor McCarthy all played. And Jake Doyle Hayes played for Hibs also in 2-2 draw. Look, St Mirren contingent, they're always doing something anyway. And sure, 5 of them playing this week, all in the starting 11.
Joe Shaughnessy scores a lot for them, I think. He just seems like I imagine it was a goal from a set piece because it seems to be with him a lot of the time. But yeah, good to see Conor Ronan getting game time. He had a bad time with injury last season, so it's great to see him, doing well. He's done well at Grasshopper Zurich, but then he got that injury, and he was kind of seemed a bit down about it. But it's great to see him now getting game time, and I think he'll only learn and benefit from players like Jamie McGrath. I actually like to get and watch one of their games soon to kind of see how McGrath and Ronan are kind of playing, because obviously McGrath would have been that normally been that number 10, so I wonder where Ronan is fitting in on the team sheet with him. So I must get myself to watch one of their games and just kind of see how they're operating together on the same pitch and not coming into each other's position and stuff like that, and if Jim Goodwin is playing them, or maybe someone in the comments is watching will know, so they can let us know.
I saw the starting 11 when I was just looking it up, and it had Jamie McGrath up front and Conor Ronan on the right. Now, I don't know if that was the actual formation. Now, I couldn't really trust the apps or anything, but that's what it had down anyway. And I think that they have a striker called Curtis Main who might be injured at the minute, so they had Jamie McGrath up front with Eamon Brophy. So
maybe he's playing that just behind, and maybe Ronan's off to the side.
Yeah, would probably make sense anyway. We can move on into Europe now. Obviously, we have our couple of lads involved in Sweden and Belgium. We'll start off in Sweden. Zach Elbzedi played full 90 minutes in AOK's 3-1 win over Gothenburg. They play again tonight, obviously midweek round of fixtures in a lot of leagues this week. They're playing Kalmar, and they can go top of the league if they win.
He got an assist in that game as well. He could cross one in. Yeah.
That's my bad. Missed that one. And then obviously Josh Cullen in Belgium, he played the full 90 in a 1-0 win over Standard Liège away from home as well. They've moved up to 6th. Obviously we know Anderlecht is probably one of the biggest sides in Belgium, along with Club Brugge. Haven't really performed in the last couple of years. But Josh Cullen and Vincent Kompany are trying to change that, and they're improving every week from what I see anyway.
Yeah, the results are obviously going their way and stuff like that. They got knocked out of the Europa League by, I think it was Vitesse, the team that Dundalk played. So yeah, I think that was disappointing from their point of view, but I think Vincent Kompany is determined to get them back to being the dominant club in Belgium, which, when I was growing up, they were the dominant side in Belgium, and they were producing the best players. Whereas now, I think it's a young squad. I think Josh Cullen could probably be one of the older lads in that squad now, and a leader within that squad. He seems to be playing quite well. I haven't seen many of his games live, but reading reports and stuff like that, is that he's getting high enough ratings, and watching him for Ireland, he seems to be growing in confidence as well. In the Irish team as well, so that'll obviously come from playing at your club consistently and stuff like that. So yeah, it's great to see. And Zach getting the assist. I don't know if you saw the video of him where he's constantly fixing his hair. So he's like running with the ball down the wing, and he starts doing that with his hair in like while he's actually running for the ball. And I think it was an American channel or something like that. They took a little video of it and put it up. I think he retweeted it. So if you're on his Twitter or something, you'll see it. But it's funny because obviously he has the kind of longish hair at the moment, and yeah, he's just kind of running. He's just slicking it back the whole time while he's running. Even though he seems to have some sort of hairband or something on, but it looked like it in the video. But yeah, it's great to see Zach doing well. Obviously, we had him on the show there a few weeks ago. He seems to be loving life there, and yeah, I think he keeps up that form, and they go top of the league. I think he'd be in contention to be drafted into the Irish team, and it's great to see because like I remember him lighting up the League of Ireland with Waterford. Just his pace was frightening, and he was scoring for fun for Waterford, and then went back over to England because he was at West Brom originally, and just couldn't seem to get going. But he looks like the player that we saw with the under-21s, who was electric, and he seems to be carrying that form now in Sweden, and he just seems to have settled there quite well, and long may that last.
Yeah, definitely. One bit of news from the MLS as well. John Gallagher got a goal for Austin FC, but they did lose to San Jose Earthquakes 4-3 defeat there. And now we go on to the League Cup. Obviously a lot of action this week with a lot of young players coming in and a lot of Irish lads involved in a lot of matches. We can start off on Tuesday. Caoimhín Kelleher, obviously a lot of people would have seen that, saved a penalty in Liverpool's 3-0 win over Norwich. Andrew Omobamidele and Adam Ida also played for Norwich in that game, but no goals for them again. And another defeat, which is unfortunate, but they always seem to be beaten by Liverpool anyway.
I watched that one actually. Yeah, the lads, they done all right. Defensively, Andy didn't. I don't know if you saw the goals back, but I think he was kind of. It seemed like he was struggling a little bit. Because I remember he looked like he was frustrated at his teammates because I was looking around, watching him, and he seemed to be kind of pointing and giving out, and it was just like he just seemed frustrated. That maybe it was because obviously the result, but I think he can go to another level if he wants, and I think he's kind of looking around and going like, "Come on, let's get things going here." But yeah, the goals. I mean, because people just in their box, it just seems to switch off, and I seen Andy trying to come along, and he was just sliding in and just missing it by that like half a second, and before Minamino scored, and then in the second half they got a couple more. Kelleher on the other hand, brilliant, very reliable and solid for Liverpool. Anything that came over the top for players like Ida or anything like that, he was straight out and just headed it back over and back to the defender. Just looked calm, saved the penalty as you said. Done well to actually save it because he kind of just stuck his leg out in whatever way, hit his foot, kind of bounced back perfectly for him. So it was a good save. If Shay Given had done that against Spain all those years ago, we may have been talking about Ireland maybe reaching a World Cup semi-final or final. But it wasn't to be. But it was a great save. And yeah, delighted for Kelleher because everyone's been talking about Bazunu. So I'm sure he had a point to prove, saying, well, hang on, don't forget about me. And it was a perfect way to answer the critics or just remind people of who he is and where he's been.
Yeah, definitely dead on there. We move on Tuesday again. Sean Maguire got a goal in Preston's 4-1 win over Cheltenham. Good to see as well. Greg Cunningham and Alan Brown also involved there for Preston. They play Liverpool in the next round, interestingly, so it could be a couple of Irish involvements in that one, which will be good to see again. Probably be live on the telly as well, considering Liverpool are on most weeks. Enda Stevens got a goal for Sheffield United in their. It was a 2-2 draw, but they ended up losing on penalties to Southampton. Shane Long was on the bench for Southampton, didn't get on, but that's the first involvement I've seen of him this season, really, even being on the bench. So it's a weird one to mention anyway. You think he might have been involved a bit more. Aaron Connolly got a double for Brighton last night against Swansea, which was good to see again. Obviously, he had a lot of criticism over the international break, which I don't think was deserved. And look, 2 goals, that'll silence them a little bit, hopefully. And Jimmy, you would have seen it on our page as well. Jimmy Dunn scored the winning penalty for QPR over Everton. How do you feel about that one, Paul? Obviously, out of the League Cup again, out of another cup competition. It's would you rather be in it or focus on the league?
Yeah, obviously, I'm not happy that Everton are out of the cup. You know, it's I think Everton should be doing everything they can to end that horrible run of years without a trophy now at this stage. So yeah, it was disappointing. I watched the game on a bit of a dodgy stream, so I couldn't really focus on it that well. I thought Andros Townsend was really well, but anyway, we won't talk too much about them. It was great to see Jimmy Dunn getting the winning penalty. You know, I think the only one that was missed was the one before. Every penalty was scored. I think you're starting to see that more often with penalty shootouts. Is you know, there's more teams scoring than, you know, missing more of their pens. I don't know what it is, whether it's people are becoming better at taking penalties, or it's becoming easier, or they're waiting for the goalkeeper to move, or whatever. But yeah, look, Jimmy Dunn, it's good for him. He's never really got a chance, I would have felt, maybe at Burnley, to really kick on, something like that. So maybe QPR is his new home. Yeah, I was happy for him, but obviously disappointed for Everton. Yeah,
definitely. And that's all I've got from the League Cup anyway. Did I miss anything, or do you have anything to add?
I just want to talk about Aaron Connolly. It's great to see him getting a couple of goals. You spoke about him struggling in, I wouldn't say struggling, but getting abuse in the international break. And I think I said it a few times on our shows that I think he is the one that looks most likely to get in positions to score goals. He's the one that looks dangerous. He's the one that scares the opposition because of his pace. So I think more people need to get behind Aaron Connolly. Whether you like the way he looks, or whether you don't like his hair or whatever, you should judge him on his football and ultimately get behind the lad. Do you know, he seems to, for whatever reason, people just seem to not gravitate to him and think he's like full of himself and stuff like that. And I've obviously done videos with him and stuff like that. He's actually he's a nice fella. He's not up his arse like everybody thinks he is. He's a genuine nice lad, just young and wants to play football. And yeah, people are just quick to stick the boot in, but I think it's time for him now to start silencing the critics. And I like this little celebration. We just put his kind of finger up to his ear, celebrating in front of the fans. And yeah, he got his 2 goals, and hopefully this is a turning point for him now for the rest of the season, and he can start adding more goals to his tally, and maybe a couple of international goals and get off the mark for Ireland as well, because he always seems to be either like Seamus Coleman, either just before international break gets injured, or gets injured on international break and comes back to his club. So yeah, I'd like to just see him get a run of games, scoring goals, and stop being so harsh on himself.
Yeah, definitely. And look, good to see him getting a couple of goals, and good to see a lot of the lads getting game time. Some lads coming back from injuries, some young lads getting in as well. Good to see. And look, a lot of it is live on Sky Sports as well, so it can be seen by anyone. I think that's it for today, Paul. Gone through most things. There's a couple of other fixtures on during this week, but besides that, look, if you have anything else to add, don't think so.
No, I just look. It's good to see some of our players coming into form now, and it'd be good to see if they can carry the form going on now for the next few weeks and months, and just kind of see who has a real breakthrough season as well. Would be nice. So yeah, just as you say, let's just see how the next kind of couple of weeks transpire and see how things go.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and look, we'll be back again next week with another edition of the Irish Abroad Show. So thanks very much.
Presented by Paul Tierney. Thanks, guys.